Let me start this off. I'm a college student. I used to be a nuclear reactor operator, but I'm just some guy. I have found that very often I question current theories and like the very foundation of like the rules they're set on anytime I even learn a little bit of them. That that's just the way my mind works. So, for example, I've had this like itching thought at the back of my head that most of quantum mechanics is caused by an error in ability to measure rather than an understanding. Because if you're looking at a soccer ball from 10 light years away and trying to measure where that soccer ball is, any method you use to measure it, you're probably only going to receive either a single point of location or, you know, a general vibe of where it is in a direction, right? The idea is that you would have trouble at a certain distance measuring even a soccer ball flying through space, and you would end up coming to some sort of conclusion about it, the reality of the soccer ball, if you've never seen a soccer ball before. And that's just itching at the back of my mind. That doesn't mean it's true, but it's there. But particularly when we get into like physics I can go, okay, other people have tested and thought about this more than me and really get smacked around with it, right? But with mathematics, it's purely mental jumping jacks. So like in the field of logic in general, what's considered first order logic, I disagree with the idea that a contradiction has to be a contradiction because you can just order everything chronologically. That's how things logically work in my head. So the idea that A is equal to B and B is not equal to C and therefore A is not equal to C depends if you check A equal to B up here, change A, and then check A equal to C up here. Yeah, absolutely, they can all be there and it work, right? And every one of those statements can be true. You just have to not be static with it, right? And that makes logical sense, but that is the first place I go. I take every statement, assume it true, and then create the situation that makes it true. Does that make sense? So, or create an array in my head of multiple situations that can make that thing true. That group of statements. For example, you have a shape with three sides that are all straight lines on their plane, um, and they end at 3 points. But the angle of each corner between each side at those points is 90 degrees. Is that a contradiction? No, you're just in hyperbolic space. So you take the facts and then you find the situations which can cause those facts to be true. That's, again, how my mind works. And I feel like we're just on the. It doesn't have to be hyperbolic. It could have been on the surface of a sphere, specifically at the North Pole, West Pole, and then like the pole 90 degrees both of those. So the positive x, y, and z axis centering the center of the sphere at the origin. See, like I even like notice errors in my own logic after the fact, or other ways to make it make more sense. It's easier to say and understand. But I don't even I have this error in speaking as well, where I don't articulate my thoughts properly. And then I find all of the things I needed to say to express my idea properly after, and then I have to go back and do it, which is frustrating to say the least, especially when I already think differently um, about things. If you give me a list of apparently contradictory statements, my brain will just find the ways that it isn't contradictory, which is what happened with Russell's paradox. Is as long as you look at things like with a bit of separation in time and not be static, it doesn't happen to be a paradox. Now, set theory itself only this was the part that I think I was missing. It defines a set only by its composition, the stuff inside of it. But that also means that we can't describe a set except by listing everything inside of it. And any other description doesn't work, which again makes Russell's paradox moot, because the idea of the set of all sets that do not contain themselves, does it contain itself? You can define a set that includes all sets that do not contain themselves, and then have that set contain itself if you want, but it would be an addition and it would create contradictions. And if you define the set without, it does the same thing. It would be a valid set and create contradictions, but it only creates contradictions in our ability to conceptualize the set, not in the set itself. Or, alternatively, if you want to be able to define a set not by its composition, but by our ability to describe it, such as saying a set is a set of all sets that does not contain it themselves. You can describe a set that way. But if you want to have it be valid, you have to look at things through time, or just not let sets contain sets at all. Or there's a number of ways that people have studied set theory have found. Anyway, that's just follow-up thoughts on the way I think, and maybe the piece that I didn't understand about set theory. Because if we are truly defining a set by just its composition, and therefore if a definition of a set changes, for example, a set of all people alive on Earth right now, that set will change, but it will just be a completely new set, and it doesn't matter how we've described it when it changes, right? That description is now describing a different set than before, and that description may or may not be valid, and we have to separate our description of sets from the actual sets themselves. And if we don't, we will drive ourselves to madness, right? It's a mathematical construct. Now, just because this particular one had a mental workaround I could do based on the idea that you are partly defining sets by their description and the moment you described them, but that's a different set of rules than normal set theory. And having just those two set of rules, the description of the set matters, and the moment in time that you describe them and define them matters, so it always has the same things inside of them based on the moment you described them, and it only can look in the past, not the future, so you avoid any recursive paradoxes because you're just redefining the set. And then it would be a different set with different stuff inside of it, so, it's a funny thing, these mental jumping jacks that we're doing. It's hard to communicate ideas properly, especially in this medium, which I find most comfortable for speed, but feel like I don't have the time to sit down and write everything out that is going on up here. I mean, I have two. I I have a full tabletop RPG slash video game RPG that I am that just isn't on paper. So like I have a D&D up here basically, and I have a full card game up here. I have a full Magic the Gathering up here that's just not released. I have actually several full card games up here, but only one I really want to make, if that makes sense. Most of them are just like, maybe I would tweak this game this way or this game this way. Like, ooh, I'm about to start rambling. All right, we'll cut the video there.